Welcome back. You're watching the Double X Factor. Now, you know our guest every week is related to the top story. So let me introduce you to the woman we are meeting this week. It's Mrinalini Deshmukh. She's a very well-known and acclaimed lawyer with a specialization in divorce cases. Mrinalini,
Hi.
Lovely to have you on this show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You believe that the Supreme Court judgment and what it does in the sense that it acknowledges the fact that live-in relationships are existing and that they have some legal standing is essentially positive to women, correct?
Yes. I would look at it that it is essentially positive to both of them, I would say, both for the men and for the women, because the courts for the first time, as you rightly stated, have acknowledged the fact that you can't just turn a blind eye to a live-in relationship, though it does not find place in the legal format. And secondly, why I find it's a very positive thing is because they have considered that if a woman is in a relationship with a man which is akin to marriage and which is not actually in a marriage, she cannot be just abandoned by the man and say that, okay, she has nothing to do with me because she's not my wife in the classical sense of the word. At the same time, it is also about those women who have invested substantial number of, say, years. Now, what is substantial may differ from case to case.
And that has not been articulated.
That has not been articulated. It's a substantial number of years, so that it is that the woman doesn't feel victimized, or the woman doesn't feel that she's been cornered because she is not in the legal format of a marriage. So I guess it's a very balanced view I think the courts have considered, in my view.
Interestingly, in one of the parameters they laid down to say that a live-in relationship is akin to a marriage is they must be otherwise qualified to enter into a legal marriage, including being unmarried.
Right.
How critical is this?
This is important because what the courts are trying to say is that if a married man is going to be in a relationship with a woman, now in that kind of a relationship, that cannot be called as a live-in relationship akin to marriage. Yes, that's what it is trying to say.
And you think that is going to protect women?
It will protect the women, because that's when the courts are going to see that this man who is a married person has entered into a relationship and making the woman vulnerable at the end of the day because she is not a wife in that sense of the word. So that's where the courts would step in and consider this in a more positive manner, and I guess protect the women.
I know that there has been a lot of outrage, and I'm sure you don't like some of the language that is used in the judgment. You
Absolutely.
know? And yet that bit where they say that somebody who is a keep, and that is the objectionable word.
Absolutely.
Who has been maintained financially by a man, and who perhaps the nature of the relationship is purely sexual,
absolutely,
or who may be a servant, wouldn't those, and that will not be seen as akin to a marriage, but wouldn't those women, Mrinalini, actually perhaps need more of a legal standing or help from the law than women who are in a live-in relationship akin to marriage out of choice, and perhaps who may not need financial support?
Which is true, yes and no, but also be aware of the fact that the woman is aware that she is entering into a relationship which is basically only for sexual favors. And when the woman is aware of it, probably she also is aware of what the consequences are going to be. So I would not say that it leaves a woman in a vulnerable situation, or they are cornered or something to that effect, because they are aware what they are going to do. Because probably in a relationship, and again I'm not making generalization, probably in a relationship where it's based on sexual favors, I'm sure there's some gratification from the other end also, which is going to be compensated. What it could be, one doesn't know. So I do not think that those women are vulnerable in that sense of the word. But yes, those women who live with a man because probably there is a relationship of love, or there is some commitment to it, or even there is some kind of, how would I say, dependence on that man. And such a woman, if she's invested substantial years of her life in that relationship, that's where the law comes in as far as this judgment is concerned, to protect those kind of women. But I think the courts have made a very valid distinction between what they call as a one-night stand, which may not be a proper way to address. But let's put the wordings aside, and let's understand the concept or the purpose behind it. That these things which are there for a short time, or a very flirtatious thing, or just for a good time, the laws are not going to be protecting such kind of either men or women. But they're going to protect those people who are into a serious relationship but who are not in a marriage. I think that's where the distinction is.
You represent both men and women, and you represent both men and women in divorce cases. This judgment and this nature of relationship, How many of this kind of disputes and these kind of relationships have come your way?
Well, quite a few, and they have been in the sense where the woman has had a relationship with a man. In some cases, genuinely not knowing that he was a married man and who conned her into the whole relationship. In some cases, knowing fully well that he is a married person and the limitations. And even then, at the end of it, suppose something doesn't work out between the two of them, then obviously the relationship goes sour. And then the woman comes to the court and says, I didn't know that he was a married man.
No legal dispute is pleasant.
Absolutely.
But when a relationship of this kind gets into the courts, it can be really ugly. Who do you think between the two genders, since you represent both sides, is, let's say, more cruel? Because a lot of cruelty comes out in situations like this.
You'll be surprised to know that I feel that equal number of men who are unhappy in a relationship because of the behavior of their wife, and I would say equal number of women who are at their wits' end because of the behavior or the traumatic relationship that they are in. I have seen in a lot of cases where the women are really, really traumatized by the men because they're having a lot of affairs outside, or because there's a lot of money, so there's a lot of arrogance that I can buy with my money anything that comes out, and then there's no respect for the woman and she's treated just like a commodity or a furniture. You just lie there where you are. Obviously, it's an extremely painful situation for such women. But on the other hand, I've also seen women who know and who can really drive the husbands up the wall. They can really, with their nagging, suspicion, paranoia, or any kind of certain things that we see, can really make a life of the man extremely miserable. Because I have cases which have come to me wherein men were even contemplating suicide. They say, I can't live with this woman. So you have both the extremes.
Has the incidence of divorce gone up dramatically in the years that you've been practicing, specialized in this area?
Well, yes, absolutely. But I'm talking about the urban metros. I'll tell you, just give an example. We have the family court here in Mumbai. We have 7 courts. And on an average, every day, every judge deals with around 60 cases. Now, that's the volume that is there per day with a judge. In one family court, which is Mumbai, then we have one at Thana, then we have in Pune, and I'm talking in Maharashtra, and we have various family courts. So this is the volume. If you're going to have 7 into 60 and these kind of cases every day, you can imagine the number of cases that are filed. In fact, incidentally, when the family court was started in the year 1989, we were told that there were, in a year, there was cases which were to the tune of 300 that were filed for one calendar year, if you could take that. And today I think it's 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 a year, and which is a very also conservative way of putting it.
Mrinalini, you come from a family, especially your father, we know, has influenced you and inspired you to take up the legal profession.
Absolutely.
Why did you specialize in this area? Because, I believe that it probably is a very difficult, emotionally draining area to be working in, isn't it?
To answer this question, a divorce lawyer or a good divorce attorney, as they call it, also needs to be a good shrink in that sense of the word. Because I feel when a person comes to me...
That's why you have a couch in the office.
So what happens is when a person comes to you, either it's a man or the woman, they're emotionally extremely turbulent, they're emotionally disturbed. You need to calm them down. You need to show them that yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel and that it's not the end of the road for them. And that's where we need to do this. And secondly, only then come to the legal options and tell them this is what you can do. A good divorce lawyer would never recommend divorce as the first option. At least that's what I do. I personally, as a lawyer, would first recommend that they should see some shrink. They should see a counselor who would help them tide over their problems. And I say, I'm always sitting here. Why don't you just try that option? See if it works. If it works, well and good. You don't need to know me. We could meet socially. But God forbid a situation arises that no, it's a point of no return, then we can take it from there. But you're not going to lose.
But you're actually turning away business, isn't it? When you're
well, yes. But I think I'm trying to be a good human being first, rather than just being a good. Rather than being a good, businessman.
No, but final question, Mrinalini. Isn't there a supreme irony that today we are discussing the Supreme Court judgment and the ramifications it has on, certain kinds of relationships, and yet the two people who went to seek legal recourse, which is D. Veluswamy and Pattachumal,
are sent back to the
are sent
trial
back
court.
to the family court.
Absolutely.
And this case has been, out there since 2001.
And also,
and
poor
that
thing,
lady
they don't.
wanted 500 rupees.
500 rupees,
Supreme
absolutely.
irony,
Absolutely,
Manali.
supreme irony. And I'm sure they are not even aware that this has created a stir all over the country, and that people are discussing about the palimony aspect of it and how a live-in relationship is also there.
What does it make you feel about law and the way law is administered in this country?
You know something, people come to the courts with a lot of trust, with a lot of hope, and they also come with a lot of belief that this is where they will get justice. Now, what is justice is a very, very relative term. Let me tell you that. Because what is justice for one person may not be the justice for the other person. And if I was a judge and if I had to look at it, believe you me, I would just go from what is presented to me, not really what is gone behind the entire thing. So I think that law is a recourse that people take to because they believe that that's where they will get justice, but they also know that that's not the only recourse they have. They have to find their own ways to deal with their lives, and I'm talking about these issues
and you
personally.
don't think that this kind of delay in justice, justice delayed being justice denied, is true?
It is absolutely killing the parties. I mean, there are people who are languishing in courts for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You'll be surprised. I'm dealing with a case right now which has been filed in the year 1998, and till date the family court has not been able to give a decision. It's in the court for last 10 years, and family courts were meant to be for faster, quicker remedies for these people. But there are certain, of course, I'm not saying this is a norm, this may be an exception, but this is what is a reality which we are still facing. And yes, delay in justice, yes, sometimes leads to a lot of frustration, sometimes leads to a lot of rejection.
Mrinalini, it was just lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break, but when we come back, the Double X Factor puts the spotlight on female directors at the recently concluded Mami Film Festival. Stay with us.